It's our refuge and strength, very present help in trouble. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High and abides under the shadow of the Almighty will to the Lord, my refuge and my strong tower, my God in whom I put my trust.
Same here. Rosie, don't you get my front view? Sorry.
Highlanders! Aye! Left! Highlanders! Aye! Front!
Stop it, flip me over.
Highlanders! Remove! Headrest! Hang that! Feet! Good. Easy.
Yes, another piece of present, Colonel Donald Ross, for being the inspiration and drive behind this very worthy and fitting memorial to our beloved regiment. As ever, the man that keeps and binds the association together, Major Bob Elliott, has done the heavy lifting to make this day possible. And how special it is too to have one of our own, Colonel the Reverend Gavin Douglas, to concentrate our Christian thoughts and to bless this memorial of ours. And for the memorial itself, our thanks go to Bill MacDonald, another ex-Argyll, who has hewn this wonderful tribute to our regiment from a much larger block of granite. Thank you, Donald, Bob, Gavin and Bill. So standing here demands the question, what does this actually represent? What is the point of this piece of black granite emblazoned with our cat badge in a reclaimed gravel workings in Staffordshire? Who and what comes to your mind when you look at this? What memories and thoughts does it evoke? It does, of course, in its simplest terms, represent the more than 9,500 men who have been killed in battle or died of their wounds in our regiment since 1794. It also represents the countless others for whom death came in the form of disease in a foreign land, often a far greater cause of death than those actually killed in action or died of their wounds. Add to that the deaths of regimental families, both wives and children through disease, the actual numbers escalate. The truth is we will never know the exact figure. For most of those mainly young men, the end came in horrifying circumstances, from being spectacularly outgunned, unprotected and exposed at the Battle of New Orleans in 1815 by a young American force to the assault on the Russian lines at the Arboretum in Crimea in 1854 to the relief of Lucknow in 1857, where the Sutherland Highlanders earned themselves 7 Victoria Crosses. of the wars in South Africa, and indeed many others. During the First World War, 6,900 Argylls died from 27 battalions. Added to that, the Argylls that made the ultimate sacrifice in the Second World War, and those who lost their lives to napalm and machine gun fire accidentally delivered by US Mustangs on Hill 282 in Korea in 1950, and the many other battles and campaigns I have not mentioned during an illustrious history. The contribution by this regiment has been considerable. For some, death was unexpected and instantaneous. For others, it was anticipated and a near certainty. One only has to envisage those poor men climbing out of their trenches 100 years ago. For some, death was more slow, such as those men of Ian Stewart's great 2nd Battalion in Malaya, for whom death was a living hell, as 121 of them succumbed as captives of the Japanese for 3.5 years in the Far East. These individual tragedies over more than 200 years represent a multitude of sons, fathers, brothers, cousins, whose deaths tore open the hearts of mothers, wives, sweethearts, and their wider families. Particularly for us gathered here, many can see the faces and hear the voices of some of those men. Men whose lives brought joy to others and in an instant, profound and lasting sadness. Most of their names from recent conflicts are carved into the memorials throughout our recruiting area and further afield. Those who've died since the end of the Second World War are inscribed here at the National Memorial Arboretum on the spectacular Armed Forces Memorial that is looking down on us at this moment. But this memorial also represents our regiment and its place in history. It's the history of the land and its once great empire. Proud, spirited, with its own traditions and a very distinctive Highland uniform. But it is deeds, not appearances, on which reputations are built. This regiment has, by its deeds, cemented a reputation as good as any and considerably better than most. There have been occasions when we have individually captured the nation's imagination. At Balaclava in 1854, we were forever thereafter immortalised as the Thin Red Line, and perhaps more recently on the streets of Aden in 1967. But this memorial is also about us, for the National Memorial Arboretum is a living memorial and the nation's centre of remembrance, represented by these 5,000 growing trees. It honours all 250,000 Argylls who have served and who continue to serve in our successor regiment, the Royal Regiment of Scotland. And we absolutely include our close families, our wives, our children, who have been our companions on that journey. This memorial has something to say to us about our continuing responsibilities as ex-soldiers in what can be seen as a divided society and world. We all have a responsibility to think of others before self. As old soldiers, most of you have witnessed the destructive power of those who hold intolerant and extreme views, whether they be political or religious or both. To have witnessed during your military service the destructive nature and the misery of that intolerance at close quarters is a gift that sets you apart from the vast majority of other people in this country. This memorial therefore reminds us of our duty to be better, considerate, more tolerant and inclusive members of our society, to set an example and not be afraid to step forward and be counted when extremism and intolerance raises their ugly heads in our communities. So the memorial tells us about the ultimate sacrifice, of service to our country, of a job well done, of lives well lived, of our continuing responsibilities as ex-soldiers in our communities, of hope for a better future in a troubled world, and above all, the happy, happy memory of that wonderful professional spirited and most famous of Scottish regiments, the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, in which we, as Argylls, were so very proud to have served. Amen.